So we gonna start with you taking your blood pressure?
Yeah. Yeah, right now.
I think we've said everything we need to say about this book.
Yeah, well, we got to get a medical diagnosis on how I feel about this book.
Would you say dead on arrival?
Dead before arrival is more like it.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah,
we're,
go for it.
we're talking about Dune, the Battle of Corrin right now, the third of the Dune Legends trilogy. Also known as we wrote ourselves into a hole and now we have to dig our way out of it.
Yeah.
Um, so there aren't many characters left from Butlerian Jihad and Mushin Crusade at the start of this book.
You have like Norma Senva, who's able to basically do whatever she wants because she's like some superhuman being.
And is barely in this book.
I know. Yeah.
They didn't know what to do with Norma. I would say Vorian's the protagonist of this book.
Yeah, very much so.
But he has a semi interesting plot where he starts trying to find his bastard children.
Yep.
Which he finds a daughter who is like she's with dating the descendant of Suk.
That's right. Mahonda Suk, and his daughter is Raquella Anarul.
So there's a lot of inbreeding in Dune because of this book.
Yeah.
Later on in the other books, because of course she had to be someone's name.
Well, what this book needs to do, and it does it, I think, clumsily, is it needs to set up everything for Dune. It needs to set up, the Corrinos. It needs to set up the hatred between the Harkonnens and the Atreides. It needs to set up why there are no thinking machines. And it needs to set up sort of why the Dune universe looks the way that it does, how space travel works, all those things.
It doesn't do any of these particularly well. In fact, it does them all insanely poorly. It also needs to set up the Fremen.
That's right.
Which Ishmael is back in this book, and his plot is very frustrating, not because of him as a character, but because of all the other Fremen that are around him.
Yeah, I think Ishmael in these three books is probably one of the best written characters, and you can kind of see how the Fremen become what they are because he goes through a lot in the three books, right? Like he's a child slave, and then he escapes and lands on Dune and has to survive in that harsh environment. But this book felt like such a step back for the Fremen because it felt like at the end of the Machine Crusade they had established what the Fremen were, and then this entire book was just about them kind of backsliding.
Well, the thing is, I think they were trying to establish the Jakarutu plot from Children of Dune, but they don't do a good job of it.
That's that hidden Sietch in the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I could think of doing it this way. But they haven't, to my knowledge, explained that outright.
Yeah, there were so many weird narrative choices in this book too. I thought, and we can get into them, but the one, because we're talking about Ishmael, is he has this, and we can kind of dispense with this plot fairly quickly because like it's not a big part of the book. Like Norma Senva, it's not a big part of the book at all, but he has this final kind of worm rider on worm rider showdown with his adopted son.
Yes, Worm Rider's son.
Yeah, who's the Naib of the tribe.
Is in absolute disappointment.
Yeah, I forget his name. It's like Elohim or Elbrahim or something like that. Anyways, Ishmael loses. He loses, and it's like, why? Like, it doesn't really make sense for him to lose. Like, I thought it would have been stronger if he had won, and then it's like, oh, Shai Hulud favors us, and then here's how the Fremen get established.
Well, it's not just that. It is also the he loses, but he's right in the end because Elhim has been trading with like Twi'lexu, who
Yeah.
are in absolute disgrace now because of the organ farms from the second book.
Yeah.
And the Twi'leks who have just doubled down on slavery.
Yeah.
And there he is proven right that they're doing that, and they're not here for good, because they start enslaving Fremen,
Right.
and
And
he leads an attack on them as an elderly man. First of all, Ishmael is 133
yeah, that's crazy.
in this book because of the spice.
Yeah.
Because of melange, he is like one of the oldest. Well, I mean, everyone is old. Norma Senva's old.
Vorian is over 100,
Corrin's really old. He's into, I think, his 140s by the end of this book.
but looks like a 30-year-old.
Yeah, he starts slowly aging.
Yeah.
And Gilbertus Albans is old too.
That's right.
He's
He
not
will
as
become
old, but
the first mentat, as we learn in this book, because that's what Erasmus, his robot surrogate father, calls him, his mentat.
But basically, we're gonna spoil. We'll start with Ishmael's plot. Its plot solely exists to explain why the Fremen go way out in the desert,
Yeah.
and why they collect people's water.
Yeah.
That is it. Norma Senva's plot is to explain how the navigators became to be.
Yeah, the Spacing Guild, and how they have those, how they morph into those kind of like weird semi-human. I don't know, they're like, yeah,
They're like weird fish people
in a tank, right? In those tanks. Yeah. It felt like they could have done more with Norma, and maybe they will in some of the other books. Like I know there's that trilogy that kind of takes place a little bit after this.
Yeah, the Schools of Dune. I have a feeling she'll show up in Navigators.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's going on. Then the main plot line is that Vorian is getting weary of the jihad. He's the only one left of his friends. Xavier Harkonnen is shamed for unaliving
Iblis Ginjo,
the
Grand Patriarch.
And so all of his descendants, because we're on to his grandchildren now, go by Butler, except for one of them, who's our main Harkonnen protagonist, whose name's escaping me because he's only in this book.
Abelard Harkonnen.
Abelard Harkonnen,
the
youngest of 3 siblings. He decides to take the Harkonnen name back, and is in the end vilified, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, Vorian essentially tells him like Xavier Harkonnen actually was a hero, and he tells him how it actually went down and how Iblis Ginjo was trying to use the jihad for his own ends. And so Abelard, in I guess like an act of defiance, takes it on, and his brother Fakon and his father Quentin hate that. Right? They call themselves Butler, and they think that Harkonnen's like a stain on the family's history.
Yes. And then Lauronica is an elderly woman who refuses to take spice. That's Vor's wife. And she ends up dying. And I will say this is the best written thing in this whole book, is her dying of old age. It was like reading a Highlander book. And I talked to Matt Wilkinson. I said, I wish Kevin J. Anderson was writing a Highlander book.
Yeah.
Not a Dune prequel, because I think this would have actually been like a good scene. And just playing the Queen music. It would have been some good stuff. But Vor is estranged from his twin sons that he had with Lauronica.
Yeah.
They don't like him. So he starts roaming the galaxy in the first half of this book to try to figure out. He knows he has more. There's got to be more children that he's sired. And he finds one who is
Raquella.
Anna Rule. Well, it's not his child; it's his grandchild, I believe.
That's
Is
right.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his grandchild. Um,
And she might be older than, or look at least look older than him in this book, which is kind of funny
or they look close in
in
age.
age. Yeah.
And well, he's disguising himself as older. Like he dyes his hair and he wears makeup to try to look older,
Right.
so that his wife doesn't feel like she's an old lady. And like he's just trying to act like it's natural, and she knows it's not, which is kind of a cute little scene, I guess. If I have praise for this book, I did like their relationship in that. Um, but yeah, his granddaughter is dating a descendant of Suk, and they're medical professionals, and they're tasked. Oh, we got to explain the machine plot. So Omnius decides he's going to shoot these plague missiles at the worlds and causes this plague. And this plague is like only part of the plot of the first half of this. Not even the first half, the first third of this book deals
It's
with
true.
this.
Yeah, it's
And
called The Scourge, I believe, and it was developed by Rieker Van, who in the previous books was a Tleilaxu slaver, and he's basically being kept, I want to say, by Erasmus.
yes, he
Yeah,
cuts all his limbs off and puts him in a weird metal body.
yeah. So he sort of like Erasmus and Rieker Van and Omnius all kind of agree on this plot. Let's just go
Oh,
poison all the
and
humans.
there's another human, Iblis Ginjo's second in command.
Yorick Thur,
Yorick Thur shows back up.
right? Who was like a
Right.
nothing character in the other two books.
And his big thing is he got the age extension treatment along with Gilbertus Albans, but he was too old to get it, so he's like going crazy because of his age extension. At least they kind of try to make that what's going on, but it's not
Yeah,
done. And then they also make these piranha. Um, oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself with that.
yeah,
Uh, so basically, Vor leads this charge against all the synchronized worlds where they nuke them. They nuke all of them. Like humans, human slaves be damned. They nuke all of the synchronized worlds up to Corrin, and they put a blockade around it.
yeah, yeah. Quentin and Facon, I think they discover that the at Corrin there's like a giant machine fleet, and they know that they're going to push against the human league or the League of, what do they call, League of Nobles, League of,
Yes.
yeah, League of Nobles, capital Seleucus Secundus. So they go back and they say, like, we basically have to try and cut them out at their knees before they come and destroy humanity. So as you said, they nuke every other planet, which is such an extreme measure, but I mean it works. It
You
somehow
gotta
works.
wipe
Yeah.
Omnius off of the face of the galaxy, and they put a blockade around Corrin that stands for 18 years.
Before we get to the 18 years, though, can we talk about Raina Butler just like a little bit? So
Oh
she,
yeah, that's a stupid plot line.
so I think her father is Rekov. I think that's how you pronounce it, and he's the brother of Facon, the son of Quinton, and so he's the brother of Facon and Abelard. He dies from the scourge plague, and his daughter, in a very kind of like gruesomely described uh, sequence, she almost dies from it. She's like a 7-year-old girl. She like loses all of her hair. Her skin becomes translucent, and she has visions of Serena Butler, who at this point is kind of like deified. She's like considered to be a god almost, right? She's people praise her, and she's part of this like triad with her son Manny and the Innocent and Iblis Ginjo. Anyways, so she sees visions of Serena and she takes it upon herself, like just, emaciated and nearly dead. She goes outside and starts like smashing machines and then starts basically like an uprising and almost like like a cult of people who just smash all the machines. Like they just hate machines. And she gets off planet. She gets rediscovered by, I think, one of her uncles, and she goes and starts spreading her cult. And that sort of also happens in tandem with this. And then, as you said, we have an 18-year time jump.
And the Cymax are doing nothing.
which is crazy.
They do nothing in this book other than one thing that is not of consequence. So in the 18-year time gap, the Cymax kill all the Cogadors except for one.
Vidad is the only Cogador to survive.
And they take over the Cogador's world. And they also capture Quentin Butler and turn him into a Cymac. That's a plot line that goes nowhere.
It was disgusting. That was the, I think for me, that was the worst part of this book in terms of like grotesqueness. You know, like there were a couple scenes in some of the other books that were really like, ugh, but this one, they talk about basically cutting his brain out of his body and then placing it in a preservation canister and making him a Cymac. It's just gross.
Mm-hmm. Having weird brain sex with Juno.
That's right. Yeah, because they want to convert him. They want to basically brainwash him into becoming a new Cymac. And it doesn't work. As you said, it goes nowhere.
It doesn't work, but it's because Vord, well, we can't even get to that yet. So another plague breaks out on Rossack. We haven't talked about the Sisters of Rossack.
Right, the sorceresses. Yeah. Also known as
the dumbest characters in all of Dune. I hate these. I hate their leader. Norma Senva's half-sister is worse than Norma Senva's mother, and I never thought I would say that, but there is a character that is more of a bitch than Zufa Senva.
Yeah, Tisha, her daughter.
Is not only a bitch, but she's like really stupid.
She's like petty and spiteful and in like the worst possible ways, because they portray her as like someone who's leading the sorceresses. She's obviously intelligent, and yet she's so dumb at the same time in the way that she carries out things. And she just obviously hates Norma. She's jealous of her and feels like she, never really fulfilled her. Tisha feels like she never really fulfilled her potential because she didn't blow herself up and take out a bunch of Cymax with her or something like that.
And then reform her own body.
Right. Like hot. Norma did. Yeah.
But anyway, so the Scourge reforms on Rossack for no real apparent reason, and starts killing off the Sisters of Rossack, and the Vor's daughter is dispatched there to help with the antivirus because the Sisters of Rossack have their breeding charts and stuff, and they're still using thinking machines for it.
Yeah, they have all this genetic material stored away. I guess trying to, like, as the Bene Gesserit later do in the Dune books, this is the beginnings of trying to create the perfect humans, and it's basically eugenics, right? It's like they're basically trying to engineer like the perfect humans by mixing bloodlines that have more potential and that kind of stuff. So they're keeping track of all this with thinking machines.
And we find out that Vor's daughter is the first Bene Gesserit.
Yeah.
I fucking guess.
I knew that because I watched the Dune Prophecy show, so I remembered the name because she's in it, I believe. At least in the prequel bits of like the first episode. But the way it happens is it's so weird because the sorceresses actually have like powers, like they can make themselves into like electromagnetic pulse bombs and stuff like that.
They have the Force for some reason that is never really explained.
And you thought that was like, okay, like they would expand on that and make that the Bene Gesserit, but no, the Bene Gesserit was Raquella, who is this scientist who's trying to cure this plague. She gets the plague. She nearly dies from the plague, but Tisha Senva's like mutant son, called a Mistborn, I forget his name, it's like Jarmak or something, or Jarmak. He takes her into the jungle and gives her these healing waters, essentially, which cure her. And not only do they cure her, but they unlock her Bene Gesserit powers. Like she's able to now do things that she wasn't able to before. And then she has a showdown with Tisha Senva. And I think it was with Tisha poisons her. That's right. Tisha poisons her. She is able to use her Bene Gesserit powers to neutralize the poison And as a result of that experience, she's able to unlock her ancestors' memories. So like in the way that they can in Dune, she can now hear from all of her female ancestors throughout time.
Yeah, she has
And other memory. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I hated it.
Yeah, and then Tisha Senva kills herself. She's like, "No, I don't want your help," because she succumbs to the plague too. And she instead of taking the antivirus that's offered to her, she basically takes the same poison, that the Rossack drug as they call it, that she tried to poison Raquella with. It just seems so out of left field that this woman becomes the leader of the Bene Gesserit, because she's not even one of the sorceresses. She's a scientist, right? She's a medical doctor.
Yeah. And then we get to the main plot, which is, well, first of all, Vor goes on a side quest to kill Agamemnon and all of them. I don't even want to talk about this. It's so dumb.
The Cymex.
Yeah. So we aren't going to talk about it because it's just, it is utterly pointless. It's just Vor tricks Agamemnon, which Agamemnon shouldn't be this easy to trick.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, I've been playing possum for 100 years. I want to be a Cymac now. And then essentially stages a coup with Quentin Butler, and they kill all the Cymacs.
Yeah. And as a result of that, like, they kill the three main Cymex, the ones who are left, Dante, Juno, and Agamemnon, and all the other Neo Cymex will now, within a year, shut down because there's a kill switch that was installed in all of them, that if any of the three main Cymex died, everybody would die. So it's like, it's kind of a plot device to deal with them. It's like, how do we deal with all these Cymex? Well, let's just say that Agamemnon didn't trust them and put this kill switch into. I didn't love it, but it's fine. Like, it's fine. They wrote themselves into a corner, so they had to kind of get rid of all these Cymex somehow. But they were so inconsequential to the plot. They should have just died in the second book, all of them. Like, what I would have done is, Hecate, that Cymex that basically went missing, and then she came back in the second book. I would have had her be the downfall of all the Cymex and just deal with it in the second book and then clean the slate. So all of this book is about the Omnius and the machines versus humanity.
Well, they finally, after they send the piranha spore things,
nanobots, yeah,
nanobots to Seleucus Secundus. Vor essentially leads they just go out to destroy Omnius, who Omnius has gone insane. We haven't talked about Omnius. So when he decides he has to recalibrate himself, he splits into 3 different Omniuses and Erasmus, because he tries to put Erasmus in him and it doesn't work because Erasmus is too sentient, I guess. And like, it's fucking nonsense. And I didn't mean to swear, but it is utterly fucking nonsense. Omnius, crazy robot in this.
Yeah, the other 2 Omniuses, there was like the Omnius Prime, which is the Corrin Omnius, and then the other 2, I think, came from other places. Like, they were brought back, I forget where, but it doesn't, like, none of it makes sense, because he says, okay, now I want to just basically everything should be the Evermind now. So Erasmus, you're going to be assimilated into the Evermind. Gilbertus Albans helps Erasmus stay alive, and then Omnius is like, ho, you fooled me. Okay, I guess I'll let you stay alive, which makes no sense. And then there's the other 2 Omniuses, who they call them Suram and Thuram, because one of them was brought back, I think, from Wallach 9 by Yorick Thur, and the other was brought by Surat. We should talk a bit about Surat and Yorick Thur as being the 2 most useless characters in this book, maybe.
They were there because they were in previous books.
Yeah.
I Surat gets the one-up on Vorian before getting obliterated.
There was no point to that, though. Like, there was no payoff from any of their previous relationship or anything like that. There was the only payoff, I think, in terms of like machine character development, I would say, and I hate to say it because I don't love this character, is Erasmus. Erasmus actually develops, I think, love for Gilbertus Albans.
Yes, and then Gilbertus Albans wants to bang the Serena clone.
Yeah, there's a clone of Serena Butler that Riker Van, that Tleilaxu created, and she's basically like I kind of like thought of her as like Nova from Planet of the Apes. Like she's kind of like there's nothing to her. There's no substance. She's like two dimensional. Um, but she doesn't have any of the memories of Serena Butler. She's basically just like a
Because they haven't developed Golas quite yet.
right.
They can clone, but they haven't figured out how to put the memories back in, which I liked. I did
Right.
like that. We don't need to have Golas already.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But
Yorick Thur it finally escapes the Corrin blockade after like 20 years, and he tries to take over the Jihad by killing Iblis Ginjo's, I think, like grandson or something like that, or grandnephew, something like that.
it's his son.
Son, okay, and he thinks that everyone's gonna, start following him, and then he just gets taken out by Abelard Harkonnen in like the most useless way.
Yeah. And then we got to get to the great betrayal the Harkonnens put on the Atreides.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Omnia throws all these human slaves into ships around the blockade and says, if you break the blockade, these bombs will go off and kill all these humans.
Like millions of human slaves.
Millions of human slaves.
The Bridge of
And
Hrethker.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Vor is fully ready to just obliterate all these slaves in order to just destroy Omnius once and for all. But oh god, what is this Harkonnens?
Abelard.
Abelard's like, no, this is wrong. We can't do it. And he basically takes the weapons away off of Vor's ship, and he is demoted.
Like
And
stripped of rank, I think, even. Like
rank, and
yeah.
he is exiled.
Yeah.
At the end, and Vor just goes ahead and does it. But the only reason that the bombs don't go off is that Gilbertus Albans, because he wants to bang the Serena clone, goes onto one of the ships, and so Erasmus, out of love, turns off the bombs and essentially dooms himself and all the machines.
Yeah.
To save Gilbertus.
So two things that didn't make sense to me in this entire sequence. Number one, why does Abelard have a problem with this when literally 19 years before, when he was around, I know he didn't participate in it, but they bombed so many synchronized planets and killed millions of humans on those synchronized planets just to like destroy the robots. So it doesn't make sense that he would now suddenly be like, oh, we got to save these few million. And then the second thing that didn't really make sense to me is when Erasmus saves Gilbertus and he deactivates all the bombs, he sends machines to go and retrieve Gilbertus, and he's like, "Leave Serena here. Like, trust me, I have a plan for her." And then Gilbertus goes back down, and he's like, "Okay, Erasmus, like I care about you. I saved you." Blah blah blah. They have their final chat together. He's like, "Go save yourself." And then he's like, "Okay, well, what about Serena?" He's like, "Yeah, well, she's pretty much dead. I can't do anything about it." I was like, what was the whole point of that? Why didn't he just bring Serena with him back onto the planet? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. It wasn't clean. It was not a clean sequence.
It was so that Vor could see Serena one last time.
Right.
Which doesn't pay off in the slightest.
Because he realizes she's just like a clone with no personality.
Yeah. And we get the first instances of flesh dancers, but they're on machines.
Yeah.
And that is not done well at all. It's the most half-assed thing I've ever seen.
There were a bunch of like Serena, not clones, but they looked like Serena, and they were revealed to be robots. Manion. Yeah, one looked like Manion, the baby.
But yeah, that's and then the Abelard gets sent to the fishing planet
Lankavale.
And then his children are just assholes, And that's why the Harkonnens are assholes.
Yeah, they want to execute Abelard for betraying Vorian, for shutting off all the weapon systems and making the Battle of Corrin harder than it needed to be. But Vorian actually intercedes on his behalf, but only to say, like, instead of treason, I think the charge should be cowardice, which is the crime is the punishment is exile instead of execution, as it is for treason. And cowardice is supposed to be like a worse fate for Abelard because he's a military man. He's very proud of his accomplishments. So it's like I would rather die than be branded a coward, and so he gets exiled, which I thought was that was okay. That part that was fine. I mean, one of the least problematic parts of this book, I thought, was the cowardice sequence.
Well, let's talk about the dumbest thing in this book. The fact that the butlers are the Corrinos.
Right.
That is the dumbest fucking thing in this whole book. The remaining butler essentially takes over after Iblis Ginjo's son is assassinated.
Yeah.
And he decides he has to name himself after the Battle of Corrin, and I shall be known as Corrino.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I think I have read in years.
It just came out of left field, and then he basically declared himself emperor, right? He's like, oh, we're going to create an empire, and he made a deal, I guess, with his niece Raina Butler, who at this point she's like in her 30s, and she's like this cult leader, and they made a deal basically that, you know, there will be no thinking machines anywhere in the empire, and she would support his bid for leadership, and so Fakon Butler becomes Fakon Corrino, first emperor of the the empire that we see in the Dune books later on.
It's dumb. It's up there with the TIE Fighter Wibbled and Wobbled, or Space Vipers, or anything from Never Flinch by Stephen King.
Yeah.
So many stupid. It was so stupid. This book was awful. This book is the worst of the three.
Yeah, I think it was the most pointless of the three for sure. And I think that a lot of it could have been like, there were some, by the most pointless, I mean, like, obviously they had to set a lot of stuff up for the later books, but like so many plot threads just were pointless and didn't amount to anything. And all of this book, like the last maybe 100 pages of it, could have been like the book. Instead of 3 books, you could add like the last 100 pages, you make that into a book, right? Like I said, I think earlier before we started this stream, it could have been humans are like, no Cymex, get rid of the Cymex, but like humans are under the thumb of thinking machines like Omnius. You know, something happens to spark the jihad, like a little kid, Mannion or whatever, getting killed, and then they just go crazy and wipe out the thinking machines within like a few years, and they have their final showdown at the Battle of Corrin. That's it. Like, none of this other stuff in the middle had to exist. I don't know. I feel empty inside now.
I feel like my time was wasted. It was a long drive to Montana, and I listened to most of this book while on that drive.
So I have 2 questions for you, though. Who do you think had more character development in the 3 books, Vorian, Atreides, or Erasmus? Erasmus, yeah, I agree. And then the second question is, do these books now retroactively make the House trilogy, the first 3 books that we read, like that much better?
Not that much better, but better.
Yeah.
House trilogy, especially House Harkonnen, was really hard to read.
Yeah.
Those books are so talky. And these aren't as talky as the House books were.
I find all 6 of the books that we've read this season, I should say, have way too many plot lines, way too many characters. It's hard to keep track, and that's why they're so long. But it also, narratively, it just makes it difficult to really sink your teeth in. Yeah,
they're all about 300 pages too long on average.
Yeah,
too long for what they are. We don't need each book to be as big of an epic as the original Dune was. The sequels that Frank Herbert wrote, none of them were as long as Dune was. None of them. And it's like Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson didn't get that.
In the original Dune books, at least the first four, well, especially the fourth one, but in the first three, like there aren't that many plot lines, right? I think Dune Messiah has a couple more, but like Dune and Children of Dune are fairly like streamlined books in terms of like how many plots there are. It's when he starts to get to Chapter House and what was the fifth one called, Heretics, that he starts creating all these additional plot lines that I think kind of dilute the story a bit. But these 6 books, oh my God, there's so many plot lines. Like even now, we it took us like 25 minutes to recap the plot of this book.
Yeah, and it shouldn't have, because most of it was useless. It was a waste of time. What would you even rank this book?
I would give it 0.5 Mannion Butlers out of 5 Mannion Butlers.
I give it a 0. Just in general, just a plain 0. I don't think I'd ever read this again. This was horrible. This was
Yeah.
utterly horrible.
You know, I will say though, I am kind of interested to check out the school's books because I feel like those will be better than these. I can't imagine that they're as convoluted.
Well, I mean, we still got to get through the Dune sequel books.
I'm not looking forward to those because like you can see that they've already seeded the
what they're going to do.
What they're going to do. We didn't say, but before all the Omniuses get destroyed on Corrin at the end of the Battle of Corrin, he said, I think Omnius Prime sends out like one final, like forms into some kind of satellite and sends out like one final transmission beam into space, and it manages to escape. And it's like, oh, what's that? And Vorian's like, nothing good. And then that's the only thing they say about it because clearly they're setting it up for the Dune sequels.
Yeah, dumb. Anyway, that's all I have.
No, me too.
All right. Next season in 5 years. Anyway, that's all I have. Walk without rhythm, or you might attract the worm. Or Brian Herbert and his perversions.